So you told us a little bit about DigiRomp. Is it still up and running?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And how can people get involved in that? Is it just open to anybody? Is it free?
It's for women only. That was important for me to create a space for that because there are a lot of social networks that deal with sex, but unfortunately, what happens a lot of times when heterosexual men are allowed into a community like that is that there will be a lot of like penis posting or like lewd commenting, and that's fine, and there are plenty of places for that. I just wanted a safe space for women to come and be able to talk about the sexuality, and it's been really interesting because it is so specific to lesbian sex, and I don't just mean that it's like for lesbians only, it's for any woman who is interested in having sex with another woman. And that's sort of my point across the board. It's easier for me to call it lesbian just because it identifies exactly what it is for people, but that doesn't mean that all customers or all people involved with the brand are lesbians. Yeah. Like a lot of them are bisexual, and a huge portion of our customer base actually is straight women. So yeah, I mean, whatever.
Whatever that means.
Yeah. So DigiRomp, you just go and sign up. It's free. It's been really interesting to sort of see the progression of that. Yeah. It really grew first in the U.S. and then had a big explosion in Brazil because there's a large lesbian community in Sao Paulo and Rio. And then, later on and lately, it's been a large influx of women from conservative Muslim countries.
Really?
Yeah, because they don't have any place to go to talk about their sexuality, so that gives them the opportunity to, chat with other people or ask questions. Yeah, that's a huge amount of what goes on there. I mean, people, of course, there's erotic writing and people do that and they share their stories, but a lot of the forum discussions really are about what do I do? Like, how do I do this?
Wow, that's so fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, does that scare you at all? Because it seems like you could end up in the middle of some lawsuit where some woman is getting stoned to death because she was talking on the internet about lesbian sex, and you're in it.
Yeah, I feel like, of course, it would probably be different if I were like in Iran or something like that. I would be, slightly more concerned about it. Luckily, we live in the United States and we have protections for that. So I think for me, even if I did get in trouble for that for some reason, it would be worth it to me to provide that experience to someone.
Yeah, that's kind of like providing a service that I'm sure absolutely does not exist for most of us.
For sure. And I mean, I have to think back to how it was for me growing up. I mean, obviously I didn't live in a conservative Muslim country, but I did live in the conservative South, and I lived in a town, I grew up in a town that was pre-Ellen, and I lived in a town that was small, and there was no gay person at all. I learned about lesbians from the Howard Stern show. That tells you about how much I knew about that.
It's very real.
Yeah, and so if I had access to something like that, I think I would have felt so much less weird.
Yeah.
And it probably wouldn't have taken me as long to figure myself out and come out.
I like how you said pre-Ellen. Like the pre-Ellen era versus the post-Ellen era.
P.E. Yeah, I know.
With like a small thing somewhere in there, like pre-Rosie O'Donnell also.
Yeah, I know, right? Funny.
Oh, that's a good way of putting it. Okay, so you talked about how Juicy Pink Box kind of evolved out of DigiRomp becoming something big. And I wanted you to just tell everyone what have been your main projects with Jincey Pink Box so far.
So we shoot several series per year. We shoot erotic film series based on like a concept. And so, our first project was Taxi. And at the same time, on the set of Taxi, we shot an ongoing series called Confessions, which is a behind-the-scenes look at the porn stars. They come into like a confession booth and they tell all their sins, and you just get to see a bigger picture of who they are. So there are those two series. Confessions, as I said, will be like a rolling thing. So anybody who works for the company will then come.
Do you just have like a confession box sitting somewhere?
I do. It's actually in storage downstairs. Yes, like it's a real thing. It has like the sliding window, and you sit down and kneel. It's amazing.
It's such a religiously like wrong experience to watch those.
Yeah, it is. But for me, it's like tongue in cheek. Yeah. And then most recently, I had my directorial debut in Therapy, And that was, it's a film series of solo masturbation scenes, and it takes place in a therapist's office. And the women are actually, I assigned them sort of parts of myself or experiences that I had, but they didn't know that. I just, said this is the character and this is their experience. And I asked them to, I don't script dialogue, so I asked them to speak just pretty much from their own experience and how they connected with the character, so that we could find, through this dialogue, find like common ground of like exploring sexuality in that way. Because what's interesting to me is to show as much of the woman as I can. It's not just like about the pussy or the tits or whatever. It's about the whole body. It's about what turns a woman on. It's about whatever, breathing and just the whole thing. Because that's really, for me, what I feel like was missing in porn.
Yeah, I actually really noticed that. I primarily watched Taxi, which I reviewed for the magazine.
Yeah. Loved your review, thanks. It was glowing. I loved it.
Well, and that was the one thing that I really noticed about it, was that you weren't focusing just on the pussy or the ass.
Right.
It was very much like the whole body experience, whether there were clothes on or clothes off.
Right.
And I figured that probably was very much influenced by the fact that you were filming in a taxi cab, and it's really hard to get some of those shots, but it was just like a really different way of looking at porn.
Yeah, no, that's always the way that we'll shoot, and I think that relates to the sort of cinematic aspect of things for me. It's like sex in a movie. I don't do like storylines. I don't script dialogue, as I said. Rather, the stuff that I make is kind of like you take the intersection, just that little piece, the sex scene in a movie, but instead of stopping and like going to fireworks or whatever, it goes all the way.
Yeah. So you're bringing a story to it.
Yeah, and I don't know, I think it's sexier when you start with your clothes on and take them off,
Yeah, instead of the woman sitting and then suddenly the dick showing up right next to her.
Yeah.
It's always like, well, okay, that works, but where did that come from?
Right.
How did this naked man get in the room with her?
Yeah.